the escape. The morning sun streamed through the windshield as Emily and Rachel drove down the coastal highway with the windows down and music playing loud enough to drown out any lingering doubts. Rachel glanced over at Emily and grinned that wide, infectious smile that had gotten them through countless difficult times since college. A genuine laugh that felt foreign after so many months of forced smiles. "I forgot what this felt like," she admitted, watching the ocean come into view as they crested a hill. "Just being able to do something because I want to." Rachel's expression softened with understanding. "Jake gave you a hard time, didn't he?" Emily nodded, feeling the familiar tightness return to her chest. "He always does, but this time I didn't let him win." They arrived at the beach house just before noon, a charming cottage with blue shutters and a deck that overlooked the endless expanse of ocean. Emily stood on that deck, breathing in the salt air and feeling something inside her begin to unknot. The first 2 days passed in a blissful haze of sunshine and freedom. Emily wore her turquoise bikini without apology, letting the sun warm her skin as she and Rachel lounged on oversized towels, reading trashy novels and sipping frozen drinks. They swam in the waves, shrieking when the cold water hit them, and stayed up late talking about everything and nothing. But Jake's texts kept coming, each one a little more pointed, a little more demanding. "When are you coming home? This is ridiculous, Emily. We need to talk about your priorities." By the third evening, Emily felt the weight of her marriage settling back onto her shoulders like a heavy cloak she couldn't quite shake off. She and Rachel had returned from dinner at a little seafood restaurant down the beach, and were sitting on the deck, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. Emily's phone buzzed again, and she made the mistake of looking. "I can't believe you're being so selfish," Jake's message read. "You know I needed you here this week." Her hand started shaking, and before she could stop herself, tears were streaming down her face. Hey, what's wrong?" Rachel said, immediately moving closer and wrapping her arms around Emily. Emily leaned into her friend's embrace, feeling the dam break on months, maybe years of suppressed emotion. "I don't know if I can do this anymore, Rachel," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Every time I try to do something for myself, he makes me feel guilty, like I'm the worst person in the world for wanting a few days away." Rachel held her tighter, one hand gently stroking Emily's hair. "You're not selfish, Em," she said firmly. "You're one of the most giving people I know, and you deserve so much better than someone who makes you feel bad for taking care of yourself." Emily pulled back slightly, looking at her best friend through tear-blurred eyes. Rachel's face was full of concern and something else, something tender and protective that made Emily's heart skip. "I don't know what I'd do without you," Emily said softly. "You'll never have to find out," Rachel promised, wiping away Emily's tears with her thumb. "I'm always going to be here for you, no matter what." They sat there on the deck as the sun disappeared below the horizon, wrapped in each other's arms. Emily felt safer in that moment than she had in her own home for years. The awakening. The next morning, Emily woke to the sound of waves crashing against the shore, and for a moment she forgot about everything except the peaceful rhythm of the ocean. Rachel was already up, making coffee in the small kitchen, humming softly to herself. Emily watched her from the doorway, noticing things she had somehow never paid attention to before. The way Rachel's hair caught the morning light, the gentle grace of her movements as she poured 2 mugs, the easy comfort she felt in Rachel's presence, a comfort she realized she had never truly felt with Jake. "Morning, sunshine," Rachel said, turning around and catching Emily staring. Emily felt her cheeks flush, but she smiled back. "Morning." They took their coffee out to the deck and sat in comfortable silence, watching an elderly couple walk hand in hand along the shoreline. "Do you think that's what love is supposed to look like?" Emily asked quietly. "That easy? That natural?" Rachel was quiet for a moment, choosing her words carefully. "I think real love shouldn't make you feel small, Em," she said. "It should make you feel more like yourself, not less." Emily felt tears prickling at her eyes again, but these felt different. "When did everything get so complicated?" she whispered. "Maybe it's not complicated," Rachel said, reaching over to take Emily's hand. "Maybe you've just been trying to force something that was never quite right." Emily's phone rang, shattering the moment. Jake's name flashed across the screen, and her stomach immediately knotted with anxiety. She answered hesitantly. "Hello?" "It's about time you picked up." Jake's voice was sharp, edged with barely controlled anger. "I've been calling you all morning." "Jake, it's barely 8 o'clock," Emily said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I was sleeping." "Well, some of us have responsibilities," he snapped. "Look, I need you to come home today, Emily. This has gone on long enough." "I have 2 more days," she said, feeling her resolve strengthen. "We talked about this before I left." "I don't care what we talked about," Jake's voice rose. "Your place is here with me, not gallivanting around with Rachel like you're still some college kid with no obligations." Something inside Emily snapped. Years of swallowing her feelings, of making herself smaller, of apologizing for existing, suddenly became too much. "Your place?" she repeated, her voice shaking with a mixture of fear and fury. "Jake, I am not your possession. I'm your wife, and I deserve to be treated with respect." "Don't you dare talk to me about respect. You're the one who abandoned me to go play on the beach." Rachel stood up, concern written across her face, but Emily held up her hand. "I'm not coming home early, Jake. And when I do come home, we need to have a serious conversation about our marriage." She hung up before he could respond, her entire body trembling. "Oh my God, I can't believe I just did that." Rachel pulled her into a tight embrace, and Emily clung to her, feeling like she might fall apart. "You were amazing," Rachel murmured against her hair. "I'm so proud of you." Emily pulled back slightly and found herself staring into Rachel's eyes. They were standing so close she could feel Rachel's breath on her face. The moment stretched between them, charged with something Emily couldn't quite name but felt all the way to her core. "Rachel, she started but didn't know how to finish. "I know," Rachel whispered. "I feel it too."
The truth? Emily stepped back from Rachel, her mind racing with 1,000 thoughts she had never dared to acknowledge before. Her phone started buzzing again with text after text from Jake, but she turned it off completely and set it face down on the deck table. "I need to think," Emily said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I need to figure out what's happening." Rachel nodded, understanding flickering in her eyes. "Let's go for a walk," she suggested gently. "Sometimes the ocean helps clear your head." They walked along the shoreline in silence for a while, the cool water lapping at their feet. Emily felt like her entire world was shifting beneath her, like sand being pulled away by the tide. Everything she thought she knew about herself, about her life, was suddenly in question. "How long have you—" Emily started, then stopped, unsure how to even ask the question. Rachel picked up a smooth stone and tossed it into the waves. "Known that I had feelings for you?" Rachel finished the question. "Honestly, Em, probably since we were in college. But I buried it because you seemed happy with Jake back then, and I never wanted to complicate your life." Emily felt tears welling up again. "But I wasn't happy," she said, the admission feeling like a release. "Not really. Not for a long time. Maybe never." Rachel stopped walking and turned to face her. "You deserve to be happy, Emily," she said with quiet intensity. "You deserve someone who celebrates you instead of trying to control you. Someone who makes you feel alive instead of making you doubt yourself." "Someone like you?" Emily whispered the words, hanging in the air between them. Rachel reached up and gently brushed a tear from Emily's cheek, her hand lingering against Emily's face. "I would never ask you to leave your marriage for me," Rachel said. "But I also can't pretend anymore that being near you doesn't make my heart race, or that holding you last night didn't feel like the most natural thing in the world." Emily's breath caught in her throat. She thought about Jake, about their house, about the life they had built together. But when she tried to picture her future, all she could see was more of the same. More walking on eggshells, more apologizing for existing, more slowly disappearing until there was nothing left of the woman she used to be. And then she thought about Rachel, about laughter that came easily, and conversations that lasted until dawn, about feeling seen and valued and understood, about the way her heart had been beating faster every time Rachel smiled at her these past few days. "I'm scared," Emily admitted. And immediately, she had to know if any of this helped Rachel. "I know," Rachel said, taking Emily's hands in hers. "Change is terrifying, but so is staying in a place that's slowly killing who you really are." They stood there on the beach, holding hands as the morning sun climbed higher in the sky. Emily felt something shifting inside her, a door opening to possibilities she had never allowed herself to consider. "I don't know what happens next," Emily said, "but I know I can't go back to the way things were." Rachel squeezed her hands gently. "You don't have to figure it all out today," she said, "one step at a time." They walked back to the beach house, and Emily felt lighter than she had in years, despite the uncertainty ahead. That evening, they cooked dinner together in the small kitchen, dancing around each other in the cramped space as they chopped vegetables and stirred pasta. It felt domestic and comfortable, and Emily realized this was what partnership was supposed to feel like: equal, easy, joyful. After dinner, they sat on the deck again, watching the stars appear, one by one, in the darkening sky. "Tomorrow's our last day," Rachel said quietly. "Then we have to go back to real life." Emily leaned her head on Rachel's shoulder, feeling the steady rhythm of her breathing. "Real life," she repeated. "I think I need to redefine what that means."
The resistance. Emily stood in their bedroom, folding clothes into her suitcase while Jake leaned against the doorframe with his arms crossed tightly over his chest, watching her every move like a hawk circling its prey. She could feel the weight of his disapproval pressing down on her shoulders, but she refused to let it stop her this time. Rachel had planned this beach trip months ago, and Emily had been counting down the days, desperate for an escape from the suffocating routine that had become her life. Jake shifted his weight and cleared his throat loudly, making sure she knew he was still there, still waiting for her to change her mind. "I really don't think this is a good idea, Em," he said for what felt like the 100th time that week, his voice carrying that edge of authority that used to make her reconsider everything. Emily paused with her favorite turquoise bikini in her hands, the one Jake had always said was too revealing, too attention-seeking. She folded it carefully and placed it on top of her other clothes, a small act of defiance that sent a thrill through her chest. "Jake, we've been over this," she replied, keeping her voice steady even though her heart was pounding. "Rachel and I planned this trip, and I'm going. What about us?" He shot back, pushing off from the doorframe and taking a step closer. "What about the things we need to do around here?" Emily zipped her suitcase closed with more force than necessary. There was always something they needed to do, always some reason why her plans had to wait, while his never did. "The house will survive without me for a few days," she said, meeting his eyes directly. "And so will you." Jake's jaw tightened, and she saw that familiar flash of anger across his face, the one that usually made her back down, apologize, smooth things over. But not today. Today she felt something different stirring inside her, a spark of the woman she used to be before she became consumed by trying to be the perfect wife. "Fine," Jake said coldly, turning away from her. "Go ahead and do whatever you want, but don't come crying to me when you realize you made a mistake." He left the room, and Emily heard his heavy footsteps going down the stairs, followed by the slam of his office door. She sat down on the edge of the bed, her hands trembling slightly. Part of her wanted to run after him, to apologize, to unpack her suitcase and pretend everything was fine. But a stronger part of her, the part that had been slowly suffocating under years of small compromises and quiet surrenders, refused to move. Her phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. "Ready for tomorrow, bestie?" Followed by 3 sun emojis and a palm tree. Emily smiled for the first time that day. "More than ready," she typed back. She lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling and thinking about how different things used to be. When she and Jake first met, she had been vibrant, full of dreams and plans for her future. Somewhere along the way, she had lost pieces of herself, trading them bit by bit for peace in her marriage. Tomorrow she would drive to the coast with Rachel. Tomorrow she would feel the sand between her toes and the sun on her skin. Tomorrow she would remember what it felt like to breathe freely.
The decision. Sarah stood outside the house she had shared with David for 5 years, her hand resting on her still flat stomach. She breathed shakily. A month had passed since the confrontation, and David had finally agreed to meet with her to discuss next steps. He opened the door, looking exhausted, dark circles under his eyes, hair unkempt. "Come in," he said, stepping aside, his voice flat and emotionless. The house felt different, cold and unwelcoming, as if it knew their marriage was over. Sarah sat on the edge of the couch while David remained standing, arms crossed defensively. "I filed for divorce," he announced without preamble. "My lawyer will send you the papers." Sarah nodded, fighting back tears. "I understand, David. I'm so sorry for everything. For hurting you, for betraying your trust." "Sorry doesn't fix this," David said, his voice cracking slightly. "But I need you to know something, Sarah. Despite everything, despite how much you hurt me, I don't hate you. I can't be married to someone who chose someone else." "I know," Sarah whispered. "What happens now?" "Now we divide our lives," David said, sitting down but keeping distance between them. "Now you go be with him, raise your baby, try to build whatever future you think you have together." There's no bitterness in his words, just resignation. And somehow that hurt worse than anger would have. "What about you?" Sarah asked. "What will you do?" David was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know. Start over, I guess. Try to remember who I was before we stopped paying attention to each other. Because you're right, Sarah. I did stop seeing you. I took you for granted, assumed you'd always be there. And now?" "We both made mistakes," Sarah said softly. "But mine were worse. I own that." After Sarah left David's house, she drove straight to Daniel's apartment. Her hands shook as she knocked on his door. Daniel opened it immediately, pulling her inside. "Sarah, thank God. I've been worried sick. Are you okay? Is the baby okay?" "We're fine," Sarah assured him. "Everything is fine. David and I are getting divorced." "So, what does this mean? For us?" Sarah looked at his man who had awakened something in her she thought was dead. This man who promised passion and excitement and a fresh start. But she also thought about David, about the years they had spent together, about how easily love could fade when people stopped trying. "It means," Sarah began, choosing her words carefully, "that we need to start over. Really start over. No more sneaking around, no more lies. We need to date properly, get to know each other outside of this affair bubble. Because, Daniel, I'm having your baby, and that means we're connected forever. But I need to know if what we have is real or just an escape from my failing marriage." Daniel took her hands in his. "I'll do whatever it takes, Sarah. I meant what I said. I love you. And I'll prove it every single day if you let me." 6 months later, Sarah sat in a rocking chair in her new apartment, one hand on her swollen belly, feeling the baby kick. Daniel sat beside her, assembling a crib, reading instructions with intense concentration. Jessica visited bearing gifts and advice. "You look happy," she observed, studying Sarah's face. "Really happy." "I am," Sarah admitted, surprising herself. "I mean, it's complicated and messy, and some days I wonder if I made the right choices. But this baby forced me to be honest about what I wanted, who I wanted to be." "Have you heard from David?" Jessica asked gently. Sarah nodded. "He sent a card last week, congratulating us, wishing us well. I think he's dating someone new, actually. Someone from his office." "Good," Jessica said. "He deserves happiness too." They all did, Sarah realized. Everyone deserved a chance at real love, at genuine connection. She had destroyed her marriage to find it. But maybe that marriage was already dead long before Daniel came along. Maybe they had both been holding on to something that stopped working years ago. As Daniel successfully attached the final piece, Sarah felt her baby kick again, harder this time. From a simple dare to this shocking reality, her life had transformed completely. She lost her marriage, her reputation, her sense of security, but she gained something too: honesty, passion, a chance to start again. Whether it would last, whether Daniel would prove to be her forever, or just another chapter, Sarah couldn't know. But for now, in this moment, she chose to believe in second chances, in the possibility that sometimes destruction leads to creation, that sometimes you have to lose everything to find what you were really looking for all along.